Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. We have a very crowded podcast for you guys today, as I'm joined by Joey, Brian, Pedro, and Ali as we recap the entire Borussia Dortmund season. And I'll start off. I think we can just say it's mid, and I guess that's the whole podcast, guys. Not even a snicker at my joke. God damn.
Hey, man. I was taken aback. I'm like, you say it's going to be a crowded pod, and all of a sudden it's over in 2 minutes.
You didn't like my joke, so I guess we'll have to continue. I'll need another attempt at a joke later in the episode to redeem myself from the embarrassment that was the start.
Nah, man, listen, there's some positives. I'm sure we can find some. But yeah, definitely more to improve on. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start on a very positive note after I tried to get us off on a negative one. And let's go around. Let's start with Pedro. What is your highlight of the season?
When did you start with me? No clue. No, first of all,
Ali said no gotcha questions.
Yeah, I mean, let me just start off just saying how nice it is to see everyone together again. It's nice to see Brian and Ali, especially who I haven't seen for a while. So it's good to see all the old gang back together. One highlight of the season, Eli was joking in the beginning, but I don't think he's far off. Of course, like we always try to be positive and try to engage with the crowd. But yeah, it was very like mid-season. Of course, I think the highlight is that we managed to keep some consistency and we managed to keep ourselves in a certain level in which we could stay at the top four and giving us guarantee of Champions League and just staying like very regular across the whole all the competitions that we disputed this season. But at the same time, yeah, a lot of things that can improve, as Ali said. But I would just say the consistency. I think that would be my highlight overall.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the consistency is definitely something worth highlighting. Because at the end of the day, like the word that comes to mind for me for this season is stability, really, in the sense of, we were able to comfortably finish second, even though we let our competition, kind of gain some points on us at the end there. But regardless, I do think it was a comfortable finish. And I think the thing when people look at the season and they take positives from it, it's the first time that we've kind of had that fairly easy second place finish. And obviously at a club like Borussia Dortmund, second by all means should not be the goal. But it is refreshing to see us kind of finish second in the league in that sort of fashion, simply because there was no last 5 or 6 game scramble to try and get into the Champions League. We booked Champions League fairly quickly this season. So, I mean, that's a positive to take. My biggest positive, I would say, is the introduction of players like Samuel Inácio and Luca Reggiani and giving them minutes, because it kind of gives us a glimpse of what future seasons may hold. And once again, we're seeing a bit more of that Dortmund youth come into play here. We've all been saying on the podcast that we want to see more of our academy products come into the first team, and both of them have come in to varying degrees. And performed in the first team. So kudos to them, and I think that's one of the main highlights for me.
I think those are totally fair takes, and I mean the stability is huge. Like you just said, being able to finish second place and not, I mean it's kind of an afterthought because of course we were so far behind Bayern, but we still had quite a gap over Leipzig for quite a while, and the other's challenging for second place. But if I had to choose a single game from this season that was a highlight for me, I think it would have to be the 2-0 win over Stuttgart. They've been a bit of a trap team for us the last few seasons. Even that the first match of the match in the Hinrunde, which was a 3-3 draw, was, I don't know, they're a team that we couldn't seem to beat, and then suddenly we took them out with a pair of stoppage time goals. I think it was Brant and Adeyemi, and I just remember getting really excited watching that one um, with some friends of mine, which brings me to my second highlight of the season, which has less to do with Borussia Dortmund and their performances, and more to do with the great group of folks I've been hanging out with watching matches this season. And it's been a big highlight of my season is the formal recognition that Borussia Dortmund gave to Borussian Triangle, which is the local fan club now here in Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So yeah, really happy to be recognized for that. And if any listeners are ever in the area, make sure you stop by, hit us up on Instagram, and the boot room is the place to be. So shout out to everybody there.
Shout out, shout out. To kind of piggyback off of what Brian said, and echo everybody else. I think, yeah, just the way that we finished the season with a lot of character. I think there's a lot of I'm someone who might be critical of the style and everything else, but the character that the team shows and the fight that they give throughout the season is like the standout thing for me. And to be able to say, hey, we finished second with a gap is a statement itself. So I'm happy. There's obviously some stuff that we are gonna highlight, obviously in the negative sense, but yeah, I'm happy of the character of the squad. We all seem like we're on the same page.
Yeah, the Karim Adeyemi goal against Stuttgart in that 3-3 draw was definitely like my highest moment of the season, but it's hard to call it your highlight of the season when that joy gets turned into absolute misery 2 minutes later. So then I was kind of looking at the schedule. We had a 4-0 over Mainz, but as a biased hater of Serhou Guirassy, he scored 2 of the goals. Probably wasn't that, like, I didn't even remember it. So then I was looking at the other 4-0 win, and that was much more recent. It came against Freiburg. And, it wasn't just that we won, it was that we had Inacio in the starting lineup, I believe, and then we had we had Inacio in the starting lineup, and then you had the debut of Mathis Albert. Reggiani was on the bench. It was, I believe, Nicolas Sula's last start, I want to say. No, that's incorrect. But you had like the full senior back line, which is always fun because there were no nervous moments. And yes, Freiburg had a very heavily rotated match from their midweek game, and they played absolutely terribly and didn't start a lot of their better players. Looking back at it now, I can be more positive than I was in that episode because I don't remember that they played a Europa League game the Thursday and then played us on a Sunday. At this point, I just remember the goals we scored against them, and I enjoyed that. And you also had the debut of the young guy, Inacio start. That's fun. What did you think was our biggest improvement from the prior season, Ali?
Well, I think stability. Obviously, more than anything, I feel like last season, obviously very topsy turvy. It was hard to really feel like we had a consistent identity with the changes and things like that. Obviously, hold up, my timeline's all messed up. Was last season Shaheen at the start?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
it
you go.
was.
There you go. So
Feels like ages ago.
that's what I'm saying. So yeah,
You weren't messed up. You referenced it perfectly. You just forgot to play it off when you realized.
hey man, it is what it is now. But yeah, no, Shaheen, obviously a servant of the club, but his exit, I was kind of worried about what would come next. I was also worried about Kovac and his style and things like that. But the thing that changed from when he took over and then obviously where we are now was the stability, was the consistency. We obviously, depth is a thing that I will mention later, but we look like a unit. And I think that's the big difference between then and now.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we could say, I guess, Dortmund look like a unit, because for so long we've relied on individual quality to kind of get us through games. But yeah, Ali, it's exactly what I had down to. It's defensive stability. I mean, just taking a look at the numbers, I think the difference is 34 goals conceded this campaign as opposed to the 51 conceded last year. I think the numbers there speak for themselves over those 34 match days. And yeah, I think it's interesting because we're going to talk about areas to improve on as well, and this kind of ties in with that as well. But like, we've definitely found a base where we're able to grind out results that I think in past seasons we would have seen losses in, for example, and cost us even more points. So I do think that that defensive stability, despite, I'm not even talking about like the bloopers or anything like that that we've seen, Benzabaini and Kobel in the Champions League against Atalanta come to mind. Aside from like games like that, we've seen improvements in this department, and I do think that that is the biggest thing that Kovac has been able to build on with this team. And we could talk about Kovac's style of play all day, which obviously it's not perfect, but at least in terms of that sense of the game, I can definitely say like we've had like a market improvement, and that's something to be thankful for.
Yeah, for me, it's just like it's not even like defensive stability. It's like I know who Borussia Dortmund were in every game this season. Like, I didn't know if they were going to win or lose, obviously, but I knew what type of performance I was going to expect. And like, I knew how the team was going to play. I knew they were going to go out and they were going to execute that game plan. And obviously, against a lot of the better teams, I knew they were going to struggle because we're not perfect yet. And some of that is squad building and some of that is probably tactical. But like, I actually knew this season that we were going to come in and beat Werder Bremen, like beat some of the bad teams. Obviously, like, we still dropped points match day 1 against St. Pauli. But like, aside from that, like, you look at our losses, it's like the Gladbach game, Hoffenheim finished in European places. We lost to Leverkusen a couple times between the cup and the league, and we lost to Bayern Munich twice. We drew Hamburg, I guess you could say. That's the only other surprise result. But like, the reason we didn't win the league wasn't because we slipped up against Hamburg and St. Pauli. It's because we didn't beat the good teams. And to me, like, that's not perfect, but like, it shows that we have some level of competency and reliability where like you would get to the matches on the weekend and like know you're going to have a very good chance at winning. Whereas last year under Nuri Sahin, that quite simply was not the case. You had no idea what to expect. You knew that there was like a good chance you were dropping points in every game. And this year, like, you could pretty much safely assume that if Borussia Dortmund was playing an inferior team, they were probably going to win. And that was a genuinely nice feeling, like showing up to watch the games with my friends. It's not nice, like, losing in front of all the strangers, of fans of other teams at the bar, like stuff like that. Like, even if you don't watch the games with your friends, like, I feel sorry for you. But like, you still go on Twitter and you're like, oh, Dortmund, terrible. Everyone's making fun of us. And instead this year, it's like, the jokes just didn't hit for me because it was like, yeah, we're not great, but like, we're competent. Like, you're trying to bait us with these clickbait comments, but it's like, the truth is we were just competent. Like, we did what you would kind of expect Borussia Dortmund to do, which is finish second in the league pretty comfortably, and that's what we did.
I mean, I think that's totally fair too, and I mean, I can relate to that feeling of being at the bar, especially since we share our bar with the local Bayern fans. So, when we get the loss and they're saying things like, "Oh, I can't believe Harry Kane didn't get a hat trick today," and it's like, "Yep, of course." But I mean, I think it would, in my view, one of the biggest improvements from the prior season it kind of goes hand in hand with one of the biggest things we need to improve on. And that is some of these nepotism issues that we've seen at Dortmund in the past. I think that we've started to see some of that going away. Certainly, it kind of hit a tipping point with Nuri Sahin, but then bringing Niko Kovac in was sort of someone who he may not have been anybody's first choice, but he certainly did bring the stability that we've been talking about to the squad. Um, and the biggest area that I feel we have needed to improve on is in our recruitment and like bringing guys in. I think one thing that has bothered me in the past couple years is like these 30 million euro signings that we bring in, and these guys just kind of sit on the bench. And I feel like, for that kind of price tag, that's a player who I expect is going to make a much larger impact. And I mean, even a player like Daniel Svensson, that's a budget signing, but he's making an impact. And then comparing that with like a Carney Chukwuemeka or even Jan Kuto, who this season has not. I mean, great goal to finish the season, but did not have the impact that we were anticipating. But then back to some of this nepotism, I think Sebastian Kiel's approach in the past has perhaps not been terribly proactive, which is funny because I wrote an article a few years ago about how Dortmund's or Sebastian Kiel's proactive transfer approach was going to be great for Dortmund, and hindsight is 2020. Um, but with Kiel's departure and Nils Ole Book's arrival, it does seem like the club has identified somebody who has done a lot with a little at Elversberg, who, given the resources that Borussia Dortmund has, might be able to do a bit more, be much more effective with some of our transfers. And I think we've already started to see some of that, and I think it's hard to speculate now how much of what we're seeing is because of Book, how much was initiated from Kiel and company. But I'm a bit more optimistic this summer with the transfer window than I certainly have been the last couple of years. So I think, I think that's a good place to stop talking.
I mean, I think you guys said it all. Like, I think overall the consistency has been much better. And at the same time, I have criticized some decision makers and how the way this team plays. And I think just being in that position and beating those kind of like the lower, like mid-table teams that should be our bare minimum, you still have to give some applaud to someone who just took that team who was still trying to figure things out and was completely messed up with the whole setting situation, as Eli said, and then make it a more consistent side that would just provide us the floor that we needed. But I think overall in terms of improvement, you guys said most of it. I think one thing I would like to highlight is I think it's really nice in our squad that even though I think there's still some areas for improvement, we had a solid base of players. I mean, I think like, I have to highlight Ryerson, who had a monster season in terms of assists and also his work ethic. It's just like admirable. Like it's something that makes us all like just like him, not only as a player but as a person as well. I think Valdemar Anton had a great season for us as well, solidified himself in this defensive line in his second season as a black and yellow. Schlotterbeck, it is what it is. He was already a solid base for us on the back line, and he got a new contract, thankfully, and hopefully he's going to stay with us for at least one more season. I think I even like to compliment, I think Joey already said Svensson, but I think in Matcha, as a player, I think it's a guy that improved a lot. If we think back in 2022 when we signed him and the season was over, I think we all were in agreement that he was the dud of the season, if I stand corrected, and see how he evolved as a player and how he has become a solid base, not only for Dortmund, but also for the national team. He's also being called up for the World Cup this year. I think that's something it's worth a shout out, but I think that's what I'm gonna say overall as an improvement, that we have a solid base of players that we can count on and can rely on. And hopefully with this new transfer window and with this new sporting director that I'm also excited about as Joey, and I believe you guys are as well, we're gonna be able to bring the pieces that are missing so we can just reach our higher goals.
Yeah, Pedro, as we go into like the last thing before we get into our start into the season, it's where can this team improve? And it's like you have a lot of very solid players in here. Like specifically, you mentioned Valdemar Anton. Like this guy put up 4,000 minutes this season. He's at 3,925 minutes, and he's going to the World Cup. That to me, it makes him, especially as he approaches his 30th birthday, which he'll hit probably some point shortly after the World Cup or during. That's a guy that you're not going to be able to like guarantee next season, just because like that 4,000 minute threshold means your body is going to break down. And very, very grateful for his performances this season. For reference, Gregor Kobel has 4,260 minutes. He's standing in goal. Valdemar Anton sacrificed his body, sacrificed the longevity of his career potentially in this season. Obviously, I hope that nothing bad happens, but with a guy who's not really going to get any time to rest up, relax, recover, that's a bit of a concern going into next year. But I think my biggest concern is our attacking play, and that can come from attacking players. It can come from tactics themselves, but like we're going into next season without Julian Brandt, who's had 15 goals and assists this season in all competitions. That's a pretty big miss. Julian Ryerson had 18 assists this season. He had the second most goal contributions on the team. That's very good for Julian Ryerson, but next season, am I counting on Julian Ryerson to have the second most goal contributions on the team again? I would say that's a problem if it happens. Serhou Guirassy had his third straight season, he had 2 full seasons of decline, essentially, at Borussia Dortmund, following his best season at Stuttgart. If that trend stays linear, that's a big issue for Borussia Dortmund there as well. Karim Adeyemi had a down year, but I think like you can count on him to bounce back. He had over 20 goals and assists last season. This year he had 16 goals and assists in 1,800 minutes. You'd like to see him play like in that 21 to 2,400 minute area. But like if I'm looking at guys that have played a lot of minutes that I think can be upgraded upon, I'm kind of surprised. Let me know if you guys are surprised, but Marcel Sabitzer had 2,300 minutes. Because that's
a bit more than I expected. I thought he was in probably closer to the 1,600 range.
Jan Koto got 1,500 minutes.
But, I mean, Sabitzer is playing a bit more toward the end of the season, though.
Well, yeah, that would line up with Nemec's injury, so I mean that makes sense.
Mhm.
He had to pull the weight there with Nemec being out. So I mean, I guess it's not that surprising.
Yeah, but those are the places that I was kind of looking at us to improve. I'll let Pedro talk a little bit more about the tactics because I know he's Kovac's number one op, or at least he wants to be.
It's funny. Somehow I kind of knew they were gonna call me up for this one specifically.
I was gonna say a word.
I mean,
I'm with you,
areas to
Petro, don't
improve
worry.
on. Manager? No, just kidding. Like that won't happen. Like even though like I already gave Kovac his flowers for his consistency, I think we reached our fourth, and I think if we are under the concept that he's gonna stay as a manager, and that's the most like possibility. I think one thing I would like him to improve as a manager is our possession game. I think with the ball, I think there are fewer games that I can just come up right now that we are really progressive and really interesting in possession, just choosing different setups and just making some things out of the obvious just to surprise our opponents and try to find scoring lanes. I think we're very consistent in the way that we played, but some of the movements and some of the tactics overall are kind of stiff for me. They're not very mobile. They don't change the dynamics most of the time. So I would like to see something more different in that sense. It doesn't need to change the setup necessarily. We can still keep the three in the back. I don't really mind. I'm a fan of the system overall, but I think we could see something some stuff that are a little bit more different in that sense. And there's also due to the options that are going to come up in the summer as well. As Eli said, I think the options up front, we need some more variety in there. I know Julian Brandt is also leaving, so I think we need to reinforce that. But I think an area that also needs a lot of improvement is our midfield. I think we have a lot of ball carriers, but we don't have many technicians in there. We don't have many ball progressors in the midfield. I think our best ball progressor that I can come up right now, please, if I'm forgetting someone, just let me know. But I think Felix Mecha is our best progressor. And honestly, I think, just my opinion, he's more of a ball carrier than a progressive passer. So he's still on that same profile, and he has his physical attributes that help as well. But I think we need a technician in the midfield, one or two guys. Eichhorn, I think it's a profile. It doesn't need to be him specifically, but that's the kind of guy that we are missing there. And I don't think Jude Bellingham, even if he improves in his second season in Borussia Dortmund, I don't think he is that profile either necessarily. So I think those are the things I want to point out for improvements.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about Job there is very apt, because I think he himself sees himself as more of a six. So it's like he's not going to be the one that's progressing the ball as much. That's not, I guess, the role that he sees for himself. I feel like he's been very open about the fact that, you know, he sees himself as more of someone who can disrupt play and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely something that, you know, Dortmund need to look at. Midfield is a very key area. I mean, Sabitzer getting as many minutes as he did, I think is yeah. I mean, it's indicative, right, of a need for more players in that position. I guess the area of improvement for me kind of stems a lot from what you were saying, Pedro, with us finally being at that floor, and it kind of it kind of coincides with what I was saying with regards to you know, our ability to get, you know, those draws where you know, in seasons past, you know, we would have lost the game or let the game get away from us. We were able to come back and score last minute, you know, equalizers and stuff like that. And that's all very commendable, and obviously it's a good thing. But I think the area we need to improve on is to make some of those draws wins. And I think that when you look at, because I think it was 7 draws in the league this season, when you look at the type of draws or the teams that we drew against, it's exactly the teams that we were kind of saying in terms of, you know, the good teams that we need to beat. So I think we drew both games against Leipzig. Correct me if I'm wrong. The game against Stuttgart, I think, you know, the 3-3. I believe that game was at home, and that shouldn't happen, in my opinion, especially if you're a team, you know, shooting to really contend with Bayern. You do have to, you know, close out the game, because I think we were 3-1 up at one point too, and it's like, especially at home, you can't let those sort of results slip. So I feel like in tandem with kind of, you know, pushing to make some of those draws wins, we kind of just have to take games, you know, by the scruff of the neck more than we do, because, you know, it's all well and good to have that ability to fight back, which once again, very commendable. But don't put yourself in those situations where you need to do that as often. Be confident in your ability to do that, obviously. But try your best, I guess, to not find yourself in that position and to be more dominant in games from the off, so you don't have to end up doing that. Yeah, that's what I want to see next. That's what I want to see more of next season.
Yeah, I think with Joe Bellingham, I think you're being a little bit too harsh, to be honest, both of you. Like, this is a guy who's still only 20. He's going to be 20 at the start of next season. And, like, as much as he can say, oh, right now I'm just a guy breaking up play, that's because that's who he is at age 20 years old. Like, obviously his brother progressed higher up the pitch and had more responsibilities on the pitch a lot faster. But, like, that's because Jude was, like, one of one. Like, Joe Bellingham may not be, like, the number one midfield prospect in the world, but he's still a top prospect. He still has an incredibly high ceiling, and there's nothing from his game, to me, that I can point to and say that isn't going to get better with more experience and more time. Like, he has the technical ability to play every pass, to my knowledge. Like, I don't think he's, like, shanking balls left and right. And he's so young that I think like the biggest issue for him, and especially in the first half of the season or first third of the season, really, was that composure just wasn't there. And I think that like my argument and Niko Kovac's argument would be, look, you're making me trot out a 31, now 32-year-old Marcel Sabitzer for 2,400 minutes. I have Serhou Guirassy out of form and in decline for 3,200 minutes. And I don't see why next season we can't go into it with like some of the luck that's happened around world football, where you have Kasper Yander, who would have been in the playoff and is now not getting promoted. And then literally, as we recorded this podcast, Jenin Pacinovic, who's one of the best U21 strikers playing in a top 5 league, got relegated for Wolfsburg literally 5 minutes ago, as I say
5
this.
minutes ago, I was waiting for it.
And like those two players might be available for very cheap, because I don't think Kasper Yander is going to necessarily have a ton of Premier League interest. Like I think you could get him for sub 30. And I think Jenin Pacinovic you can get for sub 15. And I think next year with those two guys and one or two other good signings, like this team could be much better with the same exact tactics from Niko Kovac, just because you're able to get big upgrades in the right areas. Like, could you imagine if our third midfielder this year was a guy that could do a bit of everything instead of a guy who's a little bad at everything? Could you imagine if our striker could like run and press and do all these different things and not just like force us to play in this one way where we're crossing the balls towards him? I think that's a way in which this team could get better under Kovac.
So not to extend this conversation about Bellingham more so, because obviously we have two more trying to share their thoughts on where we can improve. Well, first off, I want to say, yeah, Kasper Yander, that'd be fantastic. We've had an agenda. It's well documented at this point. But with Job, I do want to stress that, and I'll speak for myself. I don't think Pedro was trying to be harsh either, but I'll speak for myself in particular in saying that it's less so not the fact that he's like incapable of doing those things. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with him having a focus in a different area of the game. And if he does end up improving in the other areas that we're talking about, fantastic. But at the end of the day, if we do have him, really honing those skills of breaking up play and being a proper 6 for us, and that's not a problem either, because I think that still is necessary in the modern game. And yeah, I think especially if we get a player in like Yander or another midfielder, we can have that player that can progress the ball more. But I wanted to just clarify, I'm not trying to be harsh on him or anything and saying he's incapable. It's just if he chooses to focus on a different part of the game, that's okay with me too.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really his profile. So in that sense, at least from the sample size that we've seen this season, but he can definitely improve for sure. But it's just, I think we need more options there. I think that's all. I wasn't meaning to be harsh on him. So.
Yeah, my point was more that like the other option should come in for someone else rather than like shoehorning a 20-year-old into a guy that's not going to help us in possession. But let's go on. Joey, do you have anything to add actually before we move on?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on one thing that you mentioned too, Eli, about the idea of having a striker that can maybe press a little bit better. And just because we didn't touch on it too much, the striker issue is something that I would like to see an improvement on with Dortmund next season. And I don't want to discredit the goals that Guirassy scored this season. But I do, as Eli mentioned, he has been in decline in terms of his performances. And I do find I have found several of his performances, honestly, to be a bit abysmal this season in terms of his off-the-ball play, his pressing, his hold-up play, just sort of like him running into the box, trying to score, and not really doing a whole lot else. And when we look at the other player profiles that we have in the striker position, Fabio Silva has I think played pretty well when he's come on as a sub, but we haven't really seen him live up to those same kind of performance when he's starting. He's kind of squandered a lot of those chances. And Maxi Bayer, as much as I'd love to see the guy in the number 9 position, it just seems like Niko Kovac would much rather play him on the wing. So I just feel like we need a little bit more consistency up front because there have been several matches this season where I have felt like that was the one piece that was missing was because Guirassy is not the player who's going to get a breakaway and run up the field. And um, yeah, and I felt at times that we played better when he wasn't on the pitch because we might not have had somebody who is as proficient at shooting, um, but having another guy on the field who's pressing, who's running into space. Yeah, so that's just the striker position I'd like a bit of improvement on.
I miss Fulkrug. Anyway, I think Pedro, my bad. No, I've been crying about it for 2 years. We need to fix the midfield, and I say fix as in I'd like someone or two in terms of like a metronome, because I feel like we haven't had someone like that since Witzel and Dahoud. I agree with Pedro's point about someone who's a bit more just nice on the ball that can do a bit more than the rest, and overall depth. We don't really have wingers and the idea of a winger, because Karim is always I say always he's been picking up a lot of injuries, and we don't have the classic profiles. So to keep it nice and short, I would like changes in the midfield, and I would like more depth in the midfield and wing positions specifically.
Just before we go into our star and dud of the season, who do you think had more minutes, Carney Chukwuemeka or Fabio Silva? It's close.
Silva.
I'm gonna say Fabio.
I'm gonna say it's Fabio.
Pedro?
I'm just gonna say Chuck just to say something different.
Ali?
I said Silva because I don't remember Chukwuemeka that much.
Well, Pedro, you're the only one who's right.
Wow. Look at that.
It's only by 44 minutes, so it's like a half of football. But Silva made one more appearance, so Carney Chukwuemeka made he averaged more minutes per appearance, and he played more minutes. Not by a lot. It's very close, but the narrative around Chukwuemeka was already built up. And Silva's kind of there. He was fit all season, 39 appearances. So, he had a small injury, I believe, to start the season. But, if you make 39 appearances, you're fit for the most part. Karim Adeyemi, again, 22 starts, 39 appearances. He had the one minor injury late on, but he was fit for the majority of the season. He just wasn't starting because he had a bit of a down year. And that's why his minutes are lower. So, you can say the per 90s are incredible, but that's because he was playing almost 50% of his appearances off the bench. And I'm saying that as one of the biggest defenders of Karim Adeyemi. So let's move on and talk about our star of the season. And I'm actually going to go first on this. We are probably going to have a couple doubles up because I don't know how many guys you can call our star of the season, but I got to go with Nico Schlotterbeck.
Full stop.
Easy. Our best player.
I like it.
Yeah, I went really niche, outside of the box, being a stats guy. And I found the guy that was just no one's ever heard of, didn't earn a new contract this year.
This guy's blowing smoke.
No, I feel like it's the obvious candidate. I think there's two other guys here that would deserve a shout. You could say Gregor Kobel. Previously, he's had a couple 2-3 week injuries. This year he didn't. Very poor in the Champions League. Minus 2.7 expected goals saved or goals prevented, but +6 in the league, and that +6 is massive in that type of competition. So overall, he ended up in a good, not great place, but I could hear the argument because he was consistently there. He is a leader. And then the last guy I'd hear arguments for is Voldemar Anton, because He's not as good as Nico Schlotterbeck, which isn't an insult to anyone. But looking at the amount of minutes, it's 3,925. Nico Schlotterbeck coming in at 3,291. Anton 3 goals, Schlotterbeck 5, Schlotterbeck 1 assist, Anton 0. Anton 6 yellow cards in all competitions across 3,900 minutes. That to
Schlotterbeck
me
had 8.
Yeah, that to me is like Anton is just Mr. Responsible, Mr. Reliable. Like, granted, he's playing more of his minutes in the middle of that back three, has a little bit more protection, but 600 more minutes and 2 less yellow cards than Schlotterbeck.
He's a G.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that this club wanted him on a new contract. A reason we got him on a new contract.
Absolutely. And any other comments on Anton or Koval as potential star of the campaign shouts?
I think they're both good shouts.
Yeah, I think Anton is actually my
Ryerson.
shout. I was gonna say his name even before you mentioned him. I think Anton has been, as I said before, I think he progressed so much since his first season, and I think he deserves his deeds for a great season and just solidifying this great partnership with Nico Schlotterbeck. I don't remember a time where I was so secure about the Borussia Dortmund backline. I remember a guy who has never been a fan of. I don't understand how many people like in the orphan base like Socrates Papatasdopoulos. Like, I hated that guy. He was so bad. He was so bad. He was so bad. And that's exactly when you leave like from Subotic and Hummels to Socrates. That's when you know that you have a problem in the back line. And I wanted to shout that out. I wanted to because I know some people like him here in this podcast, which is fine. I don't. Everyone has their taste, but man, never understood like people liking Socrates. He was such a bad, such a terrible.
I think
player.
Brian just pulled out half his beard.
That was great. That was
That's
fantastic.
what I was thinking about.
The dude's getting shots for no reason. My God. Well, yes, I am a fan of Socrates, and that's probably because I do like a traditional defender. I do like a warrior on the pitch. So we're gonna have to agree to disagree there, Pedro. I don't think he was as bad
Absolutely.
as you were saying. But I'll go with my start of the week to keep it on topic. It is not a player you guys mentioned. It is a player that I've mentioned on numerous occasions on this podcast, and that's Maxi Bayer. And the reason I say that is we're seeing constant progression. This is not a player that, at least for the last couple seasons that he's been at Dortmund and his season at Hoffenheim, he's gone from strength to strength. Maybe his play isn't perfect. Maybe, he still has things to work on as most players his age still do. But he met that 20 goal and assist goal contribution mark this season. That's well higher than his previous 2 seasons, both the season that got him noticed at Hoffenheim and his first season at Dortmund. Always tries on the pitch. I think he deserves a shout, even though, once again, this is not a perfect player, but this is a player that tries every single time that he's out on the pitch, and he's improving. And I think consistent improvement is something that needs to be lauded. So big shout out, Maxi.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout, and I guess that's a good segue into my own star of the season because I've got 2 names written down, and Maxi Bayer was one of them, for pretty much all the reasons that Brian just said. But my other star of the season is going to be Julian Ryerson. Just a beast on the assists. I mean, Michael Elise had an ungodly number of of assists because Bayern scores so many goals. But still, 15 in one Bundesliga season is really impressive. From a wing back, a right back, and I think he scored didn't score. I think he recorded another 4 or 5 assists in between the Champions League and German Cup too. So I think his total was 19 in all competitions. But I mean, he's a guy that I have praised a few times on the podcast, more than a few times probably, just for his tenacity. And I mean, he's a guy who's always looks like he's given it his all out there. And the fact that we've got somebody who can consistently deliver on like a good set piece is huge. So partially the consistency. Partially the tenacity, but put those two together, and I think Ryerson was a real asset this season.
Absolutely. I was mad at myself for failing to give him a mention earlier. I said it when I was transitioning to Pedro, I think it was. But just quick fact check, it was 18 assists. And I had Maxi Bayer
18.
on 17 goals and assists on both FBref and SofaScore. So not sure where 20 came from, but he did match his best season at Hoffenheim.
So Transfermarkt lists him at 10 and 10, and they list out every single game that he scored and assisted in. So you can go ahead and fact check that too, but it says 10 and 10. So
yeah, I don't know. We got beef between wherever SofaScore and FBref are pulling their goal and assists and Transfermarkt.
So, and FotMob says 9 and 10. So
we're all over the place. It depends how we're probably categorizing assists. I don't know. Because he's pretty consistently on 10 goals, so it could, I don't know. It doesn't matter much. It's his best season, and he's putting up these numbers out of position. So we can agree that he's playing very well, guys. It's okay. Done of the season.
Oh, what about me?
Oh,
don't forget.
sorry. Whoa. Who's hosting?
I'll keep it short. All right, I'll keep it short. It's Bayer. I mean, for me, it's Bayer. We saw some amazing. I talked about it earlier, right when I said character. For him to not only play well in his position, but to also play out of position, play as a wing back, to give like 120, 150% every single game. Like that's, for me, everything starts at the top, right from the press to to how you defend, how you attack, I think, yeah, in terms of character, he's like the epitome of that, and obviously the stats back him. And I just like the guy. Like he works so hard. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'll keep it. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget me next time.
100%.
Yeah, keep talking. Give me your dud of the season.
My dud of the season is Eli for forgetting me. Move on.
Oof. Damn.
That's not right, dude.
I know. I think in terms of dud, I like obviously the easy one is Gerassi, because I felt like we all expected a bit more. In terms of overall play, like I think obviously he with the ball he's fantastic, but like his overall game is what we have an issue with. There's nothing to say about his quality. He's obviously a quality player, but I did hope for more. Especially in the league, because yeah, man, we want to be challenging for the league, and right, you want someone who's going to lead you from the front. I just talked about this with Bayer, and I feel like we can get more out of him. And if we have to go somewhere else, then so be it. But I think there's still a lot of value for him in our squad. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not Kovac. That's something for him to decide. But yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
On Gerassi, it's actually incredible that like he went from 1.14 goals per 90 for Stuttgart, same competition next year for Borussia Dortmund, 0.73. Granted, he was at 1.08 in the Champions League last year, but this year we're down to 0.65. That's nearly a 50% drop from when we signed him.
Could it be the style of play? Maybe like we just don't suit how he likes to play. Maybe like obviously we're just not maybe potentially a good match. That's a discussion. I don't want to take up too much of my time and not be forgetting the other people. But there's discussion there. You know what I mean? Brian, what do you think?
My eyes don't like the way he plays.
I think I definitely hear what you're saying within the context of why you're saying he's your dud, in the sense of you expected more. So I definitely agree there. I think personally I would find it difficult to call him the dud, simply because he is still our top scorer and he's still scoring goals. Like obviously, kind of like what you said, still like a solid player. Just we would have expected more. My dud is Yan Kuto, and that's because I still feel like he's had his second season at Dortmund. And granted, I think Eli, you said it was 1,500 minutes that he had, right?
A little less, but
A
yeah.
little. Okay. So within that time frame, I feel like I would have expected a little bit more from him, and perhaps maybe it's because, you know, he is playing in a very physical league, but that is the reality of the Bundesliga, the reality of the Champions League a lot of the time. I think that when he is on the pitch, a lot of the time he is targeted by the opposition as a weak point. I think his lack of physicality is a little bit jarring for me. I think he's a great player going forward. I think he offers a lot there, so maybe it's a conversation to be had in terms of like where he plays. Like I don't think he should be playing in Dortmund's defense. Even if he is playing as a wingback, I simply think that there's just too much of a risk there, and I think that's kind of why we've seen his minutes dwindle, especially into the second half of the season. Um, so I think that's my dud. Once again, I don't have anything necessarily against the player. I find him very interesting. I think a lot of his qualities are very interesting, especially a lot of the qualities we saw early on in his career at Dortmund. His ability to cross the ball, put the ball into like very interesting positions with through balls and stuff like that. So maybe there's a conversation to be had of like, maybe positionally he can be shifted a little bit and perhaps you see, an uptick and like maybe he plays better. Maybe his problem similar to that of Rafael Guerrero, even though I still think Guerrero was a bit more physical and able to cope in that left back position when he did play there, a bit better than Kuto does. But I think there's maybe an argument to be made that maybe you do move him into a more attacking position and he does better. But in terms of the position he's playing in and how he's performed and how other teams have exploited him, I think for me it's a pretty simple dud.
I actually forgot about him. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Totally fair. That was actually, again, Brian, one of the names that I had as a potential dud, but Kuto is actually my second name. And I did kind of base this all on my own personal expectations for these players this season. And in some ways, I actually think that Girassi ended up performing a little bit better than I anticipated in terms of his like his output in total number of goals scored by the end of the season. Because I think some of the issues that we've talked about with Girassi, we were starting to see at the end of last season, and cautiously optimistic that it was going to improve this season, and it didn't. But like was also mentioned, at the end of the day, he was still our top scorer. But in terms of my dud for this season, it's going to be Carney Chukwuemeka. I do think that he has had a few really brilliant appearances from the bench. I don't want to, dismiss the talent that is clearly there, but in terms of this, like, the loan, the weird loan that got extended through the Club World Cup just for Chelsea to pull him back, like it was a strange transfer saga that felt like Dortmund or like Chelsea had all the chips, Dortmund had none of the chips, so to speak. And when all was said and done, it was a really expensive transfer for a guy who I think there were a lot of high expectations for. And maybe some of this is because I spent the end of August last year in the UK, and it was of course before Chukwuemeka declared his for the Austrian national team, but um, a couple friends of mine who are English who are very into soccer, football. Um, they were heaping praise on Chukwuemeka in a way that was making me think, okay, if this guy can stay fit, maybe he is like the next sensation. And I just kept thinking we were going to see a little bit more from him. And again, we did see some good substitute appearances, but it was a really high price tag, and I think close to 30 million in the end. Um, and he's really just kind of sat on the bench most games. And yeah, so it's again, he didn't hasn't really lived up to the expectations that I had this season, and um, for those reasons, he's my dud.
I guess I'm the only one missing. I didn't have a
I
clear
want
dud.
to, Pedro, I want to contest this first. Carney
Sure,
Chukwuemeka
sure.
last year for Borussia Dortmund had about 350 minutes in all competitions. He like tripled that this year. He got 1,200 minutes. The fee is separate. Like the fee, I'm blaming that on Sebastian Kehl. Like Sebastian,
if he's separate, sure, but he was only with Dortmund for half the season the previous year.
Yeah, but if you double 350, you get to 700 minutes. He got 1,200 this year. Like that is the most minutes he's ever. Like he's more than doubled his professional minutes this year. While it was a terrible transfer and a massive overpay, that is definitely in part why Sebastian Kehl got sacked. I think Carly Chukwuemeka made significant steps forward this year in a way that he has never previously. Like he actually played minutes this year. He was a contributing player.
I don't disagree with any of what you're saying, but I take all of that into consideration in naming him my dud, because part of it does have to do with the high price tag that we paid. If Chukwuemeka had been a 10 million or 15 million euro signing, then I don't necessarily think that I would have labeled him my dud, but the high price tag does come with a little bit more expectation in my book.
Yeah, so that's fair. And I'm going to sound hypocritical when I give my dud of the week or dud of the season. Pedro, you can go now. I'm sorry.
Yes. No problem. I was gonna be brief. I didn't have a clear dud as a player, and I think most of the guys that we can cite have already been cited, and I don't want to double down in an option. So I wanted to give my dud to the Dortmund hierarchy, especially in terms of what I've most hated to comment on this season in any podcast. It's just someone saying a very stupid quote and not being there's absolutely no PR work in Dortmund at all, and I think they should be hiring someone as soon as possible. But that's one thing that I hate to comment on and see our hierarchy, our executives just saying that in public interviews. I think the most recent one was Kovac, but it's not because it's Kovac. It was just happened to be the most recent example. But I don't think those kind of things can continue happening in the club, and that's something that really frustrated me this season all along. So for that, I'm gonna give my dud to these kind of quotes. Please, Dortmund hires a PR person. Come on, you have the funds to hire someone, pay decent salary. You guys can do it.
Good shout, Pedro.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I feel like a lot of people have been talking about, and that's definitely something that I've spoken about with other Dortmund fans I know. And there's always the question of how does this affect the squad internally and all that. We can't know at the end of the day, but I do think there is something to be said, Pedro, about that sort of PR work. It just doesn't really sound great to hear, especially like right after the season's over, for Kovac to say, it's like, yeah, we don't have any chance of or unlikely chance of
and that happened more than one time. Kovac was just recent. That happened the whole season.
And it's just like there's so and we've spoken about this in the group chat as well. I feel like there's so many like different ways you can say that without creating headlines, because that Kovac quote, I saw it about 1,000 times from 1,000 different accounts that usually don't even mention Dortmund at all. So like, yeah, like at the end of the day, like it doesn't have like a great weight on things, no, but it is really irritating for fans to see that. And it is kind of just a shade embarrassing to, have that be a thing. And then like, you just have to like read that everywhere. It's like, you can just say like, yeah, we're congrats to Bayern. They played a fantastic season. We're working on ourselves to be the best we can possibly be for next season. And that's it. You don't have to be like, yeah, we don't have a chance at all. It's like, there's ways to work around this. I'm not a PR expert at all. But yeah, I highly agree with you, Pedro. That was very annoying.
Do you remember when... Oh, so sorry.
I'm exceptionally annoyed because we have to keep talking about it because it is news and it is worth talking about. But it's like so stupid. Like, just don't say dumb shit.
Yo, do you remember when...
Well said, Eli.
100%. Do you remember when Schlotterbeck was like, yeah, like, we got to be a team that's challenging. And they're like, well,
So that was like
he's entitled to his
Maxi Bayer's... Yeah, that was like Maxi Bayer's first or second goal of the season, and they asked him like what, like, how are you feeling? And Maxi's like, of course we're going all the way. We're gonna try to be Bundesliga champs. And Kovac is there like, Well, hold on now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's only a win.
So 100% agree there. The one counterpoint that I've come to see as well is you do also have to match that up with the results and kind of what we've been saying. This is a team that is imperfect. So I think everyone can kind of temper what they say a little bit and just be like, yeah, like we're trying to do our best here and leave it at that. I think making exceptional statements one way or the other can be just damaging in terms of, what it looks like in the media. So I would temper both at this point and say like, hey, just let's try and do our best here. Let's see what happens and go from there.
Hire a PR person.
My dud of the season. It's my turn now. Okay. You still mad?
Hey man, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Let's hear it.
I'm sorry. I almost forgot about you.
I'm so sorry I forgot about you, Ali. However, I have a hot take here for those of our fans that are still managing to listen an hour into the episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're now getting a hot and potentially very bad take, but this is my genuine opinion. Fabio Silva came in for $22.5 million plus $4 million in add-ons. That is a higher maximum fee than Carney Chukwuemeka. This is a player we actively knew to not be good, and then actively proved it throughout the course of the season. Now, you're going to look at this and say, Eli, he has 7 assists. You know what I say? I don't care, because I only care about expected assists in terms of my chances, my chance creators. Ryerson, 18 assists, 10 expected assists in the league alone. That is exceptional. He deserves his assists. Fabio Silva, 2.5 expected in the league, 6 actual assists. 6 actual assists from 2.5 expected. That's not sustainable. What we had with Fabio Silva was a guy who could not replace anyone on the wing. He could not successfully rotate out a struggling, a tired Serhou Guirassy. And a way to get better performances out of Serhou Guirassy is by playing him less, and Fabio Silva did not offer us enough quality to play Serhou Guirassy less. And for me, that was my minimum expectation. Like, okay, you've had a bad career. You came off an okay season at Las Palmas where, like, you didn't rip up any trees, but you were, like, serviceable in a top 5 league. All I need you to do is be serviceable enough to rotate out Serhou Guirassy for a couple league games a season. And, like, the pressing is great. It's fun to watch, the pressing. For sure. I enjoy seeing a striker press. But, like, are we talking about his best start is against Bayern just because he was able to run? I want more out of my striker. At that point, we could have bought in like a dollar store Mikel Merino and played them up front if we only care about pressing. Like, that has worked out better than this guy, Fabio Silva. Like, the goal and assist numbers per 90 are horrific. Or the assist numbers are good per 90 because of the massive overperformance, like I said. But, like, the goals per 90 for Fabio Silva is 0.23.
He's got $1 million smile, though.
Does he?
And you know what that is? That's priceless.
He does.
Yeah.
He listen. Different barber, and I might start agreeing with Joey. I'll tell you that right now.
There it is.
I think the thing with Fabio is definitely like there is an underperformance there. I mean, it's been indicative of his entire career. I mean, like you said, he hasn't had like an exceptional season anywhere. He was okay at Las Palmas, in La Liga, and that's kind of it. I do commend what he was able to provide, because I do think that, like, when he did come on, he did offer different elements. He was very good at, like, his interplay with teammates. I feel like I've said this a million times, so I won't go into massive detail about it. All this to say, I don't think it's as hot of a take as you're saying, simply because one of the biggest gripes, at least I had in the first half of the season, was that this was a player that wasn't getting the minutes to show what he was capable of. He got those minutes in the second half. And you can't say that, assist aside, that you can for a fact say that this is a player that you can trust to lead your line moving forward. And that is an expensive player to have as a sub. on your bench. So I feel like my opinion has shifted twice now because when he was first signed, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we getting him? Then it shifted to, well, okay, I've seen sparks. Let's give this guy a chance. And then you give him a chance. It's like, well, okay, now I'm kind of just like, I'm indifferent at this point. If he stays and pops off next season, great. If they sell him this summer, great. So yeah, that he is the quintessential mixed bag when it comes to performances this season.
Yeah, I don't think it's that hot a take either, and it kind of goes to like what we were saying earlier, or at least certainly what I was pointing out about some of these rather expensive signings who then come to the club and just mostly sit on the bench because they can't displace the starting 11. And when we're going to spend that much on some of these guys, you expect they're going to do something. And in Silva's case, I used to earlier this season I was getting excited when I would see that he was starting more because Guirassy wasn't starting than because Silva was starting. But yeah, I think my sort of linear view of Silva is very similar to how Brian described.
Yeah, and the thing that separates him and Carney Chukwuemeka for me is Carney Chukwuemeka is a year and about 93 days younger. So if this time next year we're not talking about Carney Chukwuemeka 20 starts, never thought I would see the day when we first signed him on loan. Like, if that's not a quote I say 1 year from now about Carney Chukwuemeka, he'll be my dud of the season.
Clip it.
Yeah, go for it. Carney Chukwuemeka, I now believe that you can be a useful squad player. I didn't think that when we first loaned you, because you weren't that. You weren't even close. Fabio Silva, you're a bit older. You're in your prime. We've seen it. And we've seen that there's nothing on the field that you can show me that will lead me to believe that Fabio Silva is good enough to be a backup. Now, it's not unheard of that a 24-year-old player becomes very good and makes a significant step up in some way. That is possible, but he's in his peak athletic years, and for soccer players, it's always shorter than a layperson thinks, because most of the players you remember are guys like Marco Reus, who are so good they could last longer. You don't remember Jean Cordoba at Mainz, because Jean Cordoba at Mainz was a guy that's your median football player. He had 2 or 3 good seasons, but he was elite in the U20s for Colombia, I think it was. Like, you didn't want to see that guy in the U20s, U20 international football. And then by the time he's 27, he's done. And Fabio Silva's had 65 million euros worth of transfers, something like that. Fabio Silva, you got to show me something on the pitch very, very soon, or you're going down the leagues. I don't know how he went from Wolves to Dortmund. But, Sebastian Kehl saw something. Okay, so I think we have a fan question for Pedro, so I think let's start off with that, Joey.
Yeah, so did get a listener question this week from actually my buddy Andy in Borussia Triangle. He watches a lot of soccer, and he's noticed since he started listening that Pedro, in addition to being a Dortmund fan, also enjoys torturing himself by watching Tottenham, which has been a quite a tumultuous season. Have to say congratulations on not getting relegated. Tottenham lives to see another season of the English Premier League. But this question from Andy has to do with some recent links that have been popping up between Tottenham Hotspur and Sebastian Kehl, and the potential of Sebastian Kehl joining Tottenham as their new sporting director. So Andy would like to know, what are your thoughts and feelings, Pedro, on if Sebastian Kehl ends up taking over at Tottenham Hotspur?
Andy, why do you do it like that, man? I just wanted to start my week on a good note, man. Do you really like that? But first of all, yeah, thanks Joey for the congratulations on staying. But for me, is the bare minimum. So like, I didn't even watch the match just to clarify because I was away in a party, which I didn't want to torture myself, but I was still with my phone, just following the results through the app and seeing what's going on. But thankfully, we saved ourselves. Like even though I think this administration really deserved to getting relegated, even though we were one of the richest clubs on planet Earth. But yeah, Sebastian Kiel. I mean, I think first of all, I think it's crazy to me that they haven't fired Johan Lange, which is currently the guy who uh just deals with the sporting department at Tottenham, and a guy who's said publicly in an interview in the YouTube channel for Spurs that no, the January transfer window was great. I think we did a great job. Oh, he almost got relegated. Congratulations, that's a great job, bro. But you get a promotion. And for me, it was crazy, right, that he didn't get fired. Crazy that the CEO Vikentesh also didn't get fired. I know it sounds bad that he went to get fired people, but sorry guys, you need to do your jobs, right? And you just did not do it. Like we didn't have like a great squad, but it was not a relegation side for sure. Like we didn't have the players to be relegated, even with the injuries and everything that is also put into account. But it's just crazy to me. And now you're going after Sebastian Kehl, who only has the track record at Dortmund, and we all of us as Dortmund fans know that he. I think he has some interesting qualities. I think he is able to identify talent, especially in different markets, like we talked about, where he could find decent talent from South America, Brazil. Let's see how Justin Lerma, which was one of his earliest purchases for Dortmund. But yeah, I'm not really sure he can. I'm curious. I think the most about him coming in Tottenham is how he's going to administrate a club with higher budget and a club that will need higher aspirations, because even one of the owners already sent a letter to the fans saying we are willing to spend more. But that always happens with Tottenham. They always say they're going to spend more and they never spend more. So I'm curious about how, if that's going to happen, and how Cal is going to deal with that. Like how he's going to try to recruit with higher budget, with higher aspirations in a more competitive league that, which is the Premier League is crazy, which even has teams like West Ham, who has a decent squad, get relegated to a championship as well. So I think it's a lot of things to think about. I think the fact that he also values a lot the physical aspect of the game as well, and it's the Premier League, so I think that also will count on will be useful in his new role if he gets there eventually. But yeah, not really excited about that, but let's see how that plays out. I mean, I still think they don't know what they're doing, but I mean, what can I do?
Pedro, I hate to break it to you, but I have been watching sports teams owned by Americans every year since I've been a cognizant person, and every year I can promise you they're like, oh, we're gonna spend a little bit more money. We're spending so much money on the team in all these different ways, and you shouldn't have high hopes there. I'll put it that way.
I don't. I know this club far long enough. I know they always say they're going to spend. They're going to spend even less the year before. Absolutely, that's so. But right now, I think they really need to. They have a reason to spend, because the club needs two seasons in a row finishing 17. That's not okay. You need to invest at least a little bit. So anyone, even if it's not Sebastian Kehl, whoever gets that role will need to show off right off the bat, because the fan base is pissed. So
hey man,
that's why it's great that Sebastian Kehl's best signings are all 16-year-olds.
We already have a lot of that. Like really different ways.
Hey man, if Archie Gray goes on sale, let us know.
No.
Same thing with Birdball. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic.
Vuskovic.
No,
Matter of fact,
I think there's a chance to sell Romero, and Vuskovic has a shot next season. He's not even going on loan again to Hamburg, which he won. So,
Who else is there? They could have someone else. I'll take Colomwani for $5 million.
Colomwani's on loan from Juve.
One of the worst players of the season.
Not Colomwani. What's the guy from Bayern? Tell. I meant Tell, guys. I meant Sebastian. Not Sebastian Tell. I meant Mathis Tell. Mathis Tell. There we go.
Oh,
I'm
okay. I thought you said Mwani. Oh, okay.
No, I said Mwani. I misspoke.
Oh, okay. No, you can take Tell 5-0. He has annoyed me this season as well, even though I still think he has talent.
Really?
Yeah,
take my 5-0.
Me and Brian are like, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
5-0?
No, definitely not.
No,
there's other players we can go for. Like
Archie Gray, man.
don't
Bergvall, that's it.
We got
Bergvall,
Mathis
Archie
Albert
Gray,
on the squad.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Mathis Tell's like not even 20.
Yo, Pedro, we're
yet,
coming for your team, man.
Now, if they got relegated, then we could buy up their players
exactly.
cheap,
That's what I was gonna say. If we're gonna
not
get
quite.
relegated,
Fire
we
yourself.
have to
Wolfsburg
tell
on the
everyone.
Oh,
How
man.
old is
There is a
Mathis
little
Tell?
interesting too, honestly. Young winger, young Frenchman.
Who?
The
Odobert.
Odobert. I honestly, I think I prefer just to get rid of Tell and stay with Odobert. I think Odobert has a higher ceiling than Sebastian Tell. Sebastian Tell.
Isn't Odobert older?
Mathis
Sebastian
Tell.
Tell's only 21. Mathis Tell, whatever. Sebastian Tell, Mathis Tell, like it's throwing me.
Oh, man.
Me too. I got confused as
Tongue
well.
twister. Well, if you want,
Yes, absolutely.
That right there is a content creator. Exactly. Oh.
Who's the best?
See.
Yo,
Who specifically?
So
And he's a
nice.
politician. I can't believe it. He's incredible, this guy. I knows how to answer the
Oh my
question.
god. And he's got a master's degree too, this guy. Oh my god, get a hold of him. Taller than me, tattoos.
Oh, man. What's the next topic?
The next topic is that you should be rating us 5 stars on Spotify. You should be liking our videos on YouTube, and you should be following us on every single social media platform you can think of. And if we are not there, like, we'll make a podcast Goodreads if you guys really, really want. Just so we can increase our interactions with you guys, because we appreciate our fans so much. Thank you all for listening an hour and a half into this podcast. We really appreciate it. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we head out?
Yeah, excited for the summer. We definitely have some interesting topics. Topics we didn't get to in this episode, but we'll be getting to soon. So stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you all, and have a good one.
Jadon Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inso an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!